Well, the Gosford project was a part of a scheme devised some 3 or 4 years ago, the relation of Sydney as it was in 1810, or at any rate the recreation of the area just around Sydney Cove, around the shoreline, as it was in 1810. And this very beautiful natural setting was found that is very similar to what the cove must have been, to judge by early views and paintings and drawings that exist. And so a plan was prepared for going ahead with building the buildings around the cove as they were. Then it was discovered that it might be possible for a group of university students to participate by building some structures as a part of this scheme. It was thought that the buildings, the small buildings, the vernacular things, were just of the right standard and the right size for students to have a go at.
Right, Tom, a bit more mud on this board, mate.
Take the rod away. Take it away.
Bit more mud here, Tom.
All right.
This works pretty high, so it's better keep down to it. Where's the mud? All right?
You're on it.
I'll just check for plum. Just now, I'll do it with this.
To try and finish 12 historic buildings in 10 working days was pretty audacious, but the enthusiasm of the students was great too. The structures were in 3 groups. First, the miniature house built for the Aboriginal Bennelong. It was 12 feet square and it had a fireplace and a tiled roof. A group of soldiers' huts simulated the building techniques of the first settlement: timber frame, cabbage palm, split slabs, brick and thatch and shingle. And these are part of the convict settlement of the time, built like the soldiers' huts but even more austere. One of them will be fitted up as a bakery.
And this is the bakery. And in the original settlement of Sydney in 1810, this was situated up on the hill beside the windmill, or across the road from the windmill. It's a heavy timber frame job with infill panels made of mud.
Some of these walls were done exactly as they had been in the time of Governor Phillip, with these wattle and daub panels. Wattling was the old technique of basket weaving thin, pliable saplings together. The Australian acacia tree was given the name wattle because it worked well for this kind of walling.
Oh, look at the big whiskey grab on top. Yeah.
Wattling was a tedious and tough job. These ledgers were sprung into holes in the frame, and then the thinner verticals were woven through them. This basket weave supported the daub or mud plaster. There was virtually no lime in the colony in the early days, so other binding agents were tried in making the daub. Cow dung was a common one, and they applied it laboriously with a spade or with a trowel or just by hand, and it was rough and bumpy and it looked very good in the strong sunlight. Afterwards, of course, the daub was painted or lime washed.
These are examples of the drop log system of construction. It wasn't called drop log until later on, when the settlers got going, but in the early days the convicts who built these huts used to just chamfer off cabbage palm logs and drop them into grooves in the heavy posts that were set into the ground.
Somebody put it down!
Well, here you can see the way the cabbage palm logs have been dropped into the timber frame. Here are our big heavy posts, And at the top there's a key that's been cut out, so that if you can imagine that key not being there, there's a space into which the drop logs can fit, and then they lower down to the bottom, and they're built up from the bottom one by one until the top is reached, and then they're poked up with clay. Well, there's another system of construction that's rather like this, and we'll be looking at it next. It consists of a heavy timber frame, but instead of drop logs dropped into the grooves, there are vertical slabs, great lumps of timber that are fitted vertically into a bottom and top plate in the same system.
From the very beginning in Sydney, thatching was used for roofs because more or less suitable material was available. Here, the students used wheat straw.
Pegs and rods and different things like that. Well, that's to cover your gear.
Can we have another bundle, please?
Leaning over, reaching into the thatch rather than your tendency is to fall off if you're not careful. So on the next bar, you make sure that you're working right-handed all the time. I think you'll find that you can also tie it tighter, I believe. Wouldn't that be true?
Oh yes, we know.
Yeah.
And if you work up,
Old Mr. Bill Chase became our thatching consultant. He was a thatcher in Norfolk half a century ago.
and the next 2 or 3 feet, and then you don't touch what you put on here now. What you don't force that
Forward.
it might be too big overhang, so let's just step a nice overhang with it. And keep it at that.
Well, they have approved chicken wire.
Okay?
You wet chicken wire.
Just breaking it.
When the roofs were covered with tiles or shingles, closely spaced sawn battens were fixed to support this roofing. Originally, these were pegged to the rafters because of the scarcity of nails. Timber shingles were cut to the proper length and arranged on the roof so as to give a triple lap at each batten. They were nailed, though of course in the early days they were pegged so as to conceal the nails.
Well, here we are in James Johnson's hut. This is a brick one. The walls were 9-inch solid brickwork, which still, of course, let the water in.
All right, Bill, these plans that you've done here are all dimensioned nicely, but our bricks are the wrong size. They're a little bit longer than we figured on. Some of them are a 1/4 inch longer than others, so we've set this out now, extending it to work to brick dimensions, so you keep track of that when your men are laying up the corners. And instead of following these dimensions now, we'll be 2.5 inches wider in each run. So I think we keep that first corner going level, and we'll get the first course in. And I think that'll be fine. And let's keep everybody moving so everyone has a job to do, all right?
In the convict settlement, making mortar was a problem because there was no lime. They used instead burnt shells to provide a binding agent. The students used a lime and sand mixture which simulated the texture and colour of the original, and did it very well. The bricks were especially made for this project. They were partly handmade, and they gave a very accurate colour and texture to each brick building.
You got to stand from here or what?
The primitive method of lime washing the walls for added weather protection was also simulated, in some cases inside and others outside.
Well, here you see the way they fixed floorboards in the old days before nails. These ones have been bored and then pegged through the board into the joist. Well, yet another brick building which the students built was the little tiny Bennelong's hut. Bennelong wanted a hut like the white man had, and so Governor Phillip ordered it for him. Tiny and quite splendid in its own way.
Well, this is Bennelong's hut, and it's the smallest one of the group, and it's also detached from the rest of the group. And it's been pretty simple. You know, we've had a very, very good time building it. The brickwork went up very, very quickly, but the roof, because this is a pyramid roof, we had a lot of difficult cuts with the rafters and also with the tiles.
Probably the most significant thing, however, of the whole exercise has been what we hoped would be the case, the social aspect. I think that this has been immensely successful.
We packed our swags and sleeping bags and headed out of town. 150 students for Gosford we were bound, to work out there for 14 days and work so hard for free, an exercise in building the likes of which you'll never see. We used to work like convict boys from dawn till very late. The food, it was so bad, boys, we hardly ever ate. And all there was to do at night was drinking and debates, especially when the union came a-stirring in the place. The union wanted to know, me boys, how come we worked for free. They told us we were civilized in 1973. We told them we enjoyed it and to stick it up a tree, 'cause we'll never regret the time we spent while up at Somersby. We were all students, no one had a trade. I'm blowed if I can tell you how the bricks were ever laid. We laid 'em inside out, me boys, and upside down is true. But near enough is good enough, and good enough will do. Now some of us worked mighty hard, and some were mighty slack. They even took to sleeping and jumping bales of thatch. They stood around a-talking while we were working hard. Stood around bludging while we were mixing mud. So we finished building what the convicts did back then, a little bit of Sydney from 1810. And if you're ever passing through Gosford one fine day, stop and see the convict town you'll pass along the way.
Now that this whole thing is over, looking back on it, I suppose we'd have thought we were mad to have ever tackled it. The enormous amount of work that was done beforehand, we didn't really know what we were doing. This would certainly be the largest student project that's been tackled by any university in Australia. And I'd be surprised if a thing on this scale has been tackled anywhere in the world.
What do you think of the Gosford project, sir?
Well, I think it's given the students experience of varying degrees of experience, the most particular one, site experience, the relationship with each other, working on a rough, dusty, windy site, as well as the chance to handle materials, to understand the use of plumb, line and level, how to set out and cut varying joints, to understand that the topography of land is much more than the slope of your drawing board, to see things happening, to realise the different way a building can come on from the ground right up to finish, or almost finish.
Have you had a good 2 weeks?
matter of fact, we've had a great 2 weeks. There are a lot of things to gripe about, but as an opportunity for meeting people, it's been good.
Looking back on it now, I think it's got to be said that it was a remarkable experience for all of us, for the students and for all the staff. It was an experience of full-size building. It was an experience of the handling of materials and tools. And it was a really first-class piece of practical involvement, which I think must have taught the students a great deal.
Well, I think it's really terrific. You know, it's I've only come up every couple of days sort of thing, have a look around, and it's amazing, you know, the way they're working. Yeah. Really good.
I'd just like to say that I reckon you blokes are doing a great job. And as you see, Ben Long's hut is doing a great job. And I'm doing a great job. So I think we all deserve a pat on the back. Here's a pat on the back for you. Here's a pat on the back for... How do I do it when you got your camera in the face? How do I get round you when you got your camera facing me? And a pat on the back for us.